Alright, this is part 4 of the Adult Ed Algebra Extra Credit Packet, and we're on pages 7 and 8 of the packet. So this section has a bunch of equations which we need to solve, and to solve means to get x by itself and to say what it equals. So that is our goal always, is to get x by itself. In problem number 1, first we're going to add 2 to both sides. We are doing this because a negative and a positive of the same number makes a 0, so you're essentially getting rid of it on the left. Now you're left with 5x equals 35. Your last step is to divide by 5, because the 5 and the x next to each other, that means multiplication. The opposite is division. So you can see that x is 7. If you wanted to check your answer in any of these, this one's pretty simple to check. You just put 7 in for your x and see if it does equal 33. So 5 times 7 minus 2, we want to check that that is 33. That would be 35 minus 2, which does equal 33. So that's how you can always check and see if your answer is correct. And when you have a multiple choice test like the AccuPlacer, even if you're not clear on the steps of how to solve it, you can always put your answer back in for the variable and just check it. You can do that with their answers that they provide. So now we've got problem 2, which is also a two-step equation. It's solved in the exact same way. We're going to subtract 36 from both sides. So now we have 104 equals 4x. And we're going to divide by 4 for an answer of 21. We're at problem 3, which is a little more complicated because it has some distributing. So we have 8 times 3x, which is 24x. Then 8 times negative 4, which is negative 32. And we have our 196. And now this one is a two-step equation now that we've done that distributing. So we are going to add 32 to both sides. And when we do that, we get 24x equals 228. When we divide that by 24, you get a number that's not a whole number. You get a decimal. You get 9.5. But if you were to plug that back in for x in the equation, you would find that the 9.5 does work to make your answer 196. So having a decimal isn't necessarily bad as long as it works when you plug it in for x. So we've got problem 4, and before you can start moving things around, you're going to want to combine like terms on the same side. So on the same side, you have a 45x, and you have a plus 15x. So altogether you have 60x minus 720 equals 60. And now again it's a two-step equation, so we are going to add 720. We get 60x equals 780. And the last step is to divide both sides by 60, which gives you an x value of 13. Now we've got problem 5, which is pretty similar to problem 3 because you have that distributing. It's just on the right-hand side, but it's solved the same way. So we have 132 equals 48x minus 36. Now we're going to add 36 to both sides. So we've got 168 equals 48x. We're going to divide by 48. We get another decimal for this one. X is 3.5. Number 6 is similar to problem 4 that we just did with the combining of like terms. And in this one we have numerical like terms. So we have a negative 68 and we have a positive 154. And if you combine those together, you get 86. So we're going to rewrite 198 equals 86 plus 7x. So we would subtract 86 from both sides, and we would get 112 equals 7x. And the last step is to divide by 7, which gives you a value of 16 for x. So problem 7 is a little different, but it only has one step difference. So we're going to distribute first. And you get negative 15x plus 40 because a negative 5 times a negative 8 would be a positive number, and then you have plus 6x that's still here. So now you combine things that are alike, which would be the negative 15x and the plus 6x. So you have negative 131 equals negative 9x plus 40. Then you're going to subtract 40 from both sides, and you get negative 171 equals negative 9x. You're going to divide out the negative 9. Your answer is going to be positive because a negative divided by a negative is positive. So your answer is positive 19. We've got 8. This one introduces variables on both sides. So there's nothing that can be combined on the same side. So I would move all my letters to one of the sides. I'm choosing to move them to the left, but you could do it on the right. It doesn't matter. We've got negative 10x minus 10 equals 18. Just don't forget your end goal, which is to get the numbers on one side, the letters on one side, and then get x by itself. So you have negative 10x equals 28. Then your last step is to divide by negative 10. So I might leave this as 28 over negative 10. You can leave it like that, or you can reduce, or you could divide it out and figure out the decimal equivalent. But that is still the correct answer. It's just not reduced. Now we've got 9, so we're going to distribute. That's the first thing that we're going to do in every problem. So at the same time on the left-hand side, we have a positive 8 and a negative 15. We're going to combine those so that we take up less space. So we've got 12x minus 7 equals negative 6x plus 164. Now we're going to add 6x to get the x's on all one side. We've got 18x minus 7 equals 164. We're going to add 7. So we get 171 and then 18x. And your last step is to divide out by 18. So your x value is 9.5. Now we've got number 10. If there's a negative in front of the parentheses, you're going to multiply everything by negative 1 or change the sign of everything inside. So you get negative 12x plus 6 equals 12x plus 6. So this one's kind of interesting because it looks like you have the same thing on both sides. But when you subtract 12x, it's going to give you negative 24x plus 6 equals 6. You're going to subtract 6, so you get negative 24x equals 0. So you don't even have to divide this out because you know that 0 divided by any number is 0. You know that because the only thing you can multiply by negative 24 to get an answer of 0 is 0. So 0 is your x value. And now we're going to go on to the next page, which has solving literal equations. So what you have to do on this page is you're going to solve for the variable that they tell you to solve for, and you're not going to get a number answer usually. You're going to get an answer with other letter terms in it, and I'll show you what I mean on problem 1. So it says you need to solve this for v, and what it means is to get v by itself. So the y is on the same side as v. We're just going to subtract y from both sides. So all you get is v equals w minus y. Remember that you can't combine the different letters, so that's just your answer. You got v by itself. In this one, you're going to solve for w, and the operation between the 9, the w, and the r is multiplication, so you can divide out all the things that you don't want. We want the 9 and the r to be on the other side, so we can divide both sides by 9r. So once you cancel those, w is by itself, and you get 81 over 9r. If you wanted, you could reduce that to 9 over r, but they're the same thing. You're just dividing the top and the bottom by 9 to get that. Problem 3, we're solving for f. So we're going to move the 2d over. Don't make the mistake of calling the right side 7d, because 9 minus 2d, those can't be combined. So you have negative 3f equals 9 minus 2d. Then you're going to divide by your negative 3. So you have, if you wanted to simplify this, you could. 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3. And then negative divided by negative is a positive, so we're going to call it plus 2/3 d. I just broke that up because the negative 3, the division by negative 3, applies to both the 9 and the negative 2d. You're dividing everything on that side by negative 3. All right, so now we're going to solve for x. We move t over by subtracting, and we get dx equals 10 minus t. Now we need to divide out the d. And since these are all letters, there's nothing that we can simplify, so you just get 10 minus t over d for your x value. Number 5, we need to solve for g. So what I would do, instead of distributing is multiplication, so the opposite would be division. I would just divide out the 180 to make our lives easier. So that's gone. We get p over 180 equals g minus 9, and now it's pretty straightforward to solve for the g. It's just one more step. It's just plus 9. So you get p over 180 plus 9 equals g. And if you wanted to, you could simplify this. You could write the 9 as a fraction over 180 so that they would have a common denominator. So really this would be, if you multiplied it, 1,620 over 180. So your true simplified answer would be p plus 1,620 over 180 for g. Because when you add fractions, you want to make sure that you have a common denominator. Number 6, which is our final problem of this section, we're solving for x. So we're going to subtract y, and we're going to add 5h to both sides. I'm going to do that in the same step. Subtract y, and then the 5h can't be combined with anything, so I'm going to just put it here. So when I do that, I get 4x equals 10y minus y is 9y. Then I have a plus u, then I have a plus 5h. None of those can be combined. And your last step is simply to divide by 4. And there's nothing that can be simplified. 4 doesn't go into 9 or 5 evenly, so you can just call your answer 9y plus u plus 5h all over 4. And that can be your answer for x. So this concludes part 4 of the Algebra Extra Credit Packet.